Expect the ROI to get worse. Bad as it is, expect things to get worse, as there are three trends currently pushing women further away from men: capitalism, technology, and government. We first discussed this in the introductory chapter of this book. Capitalism has allowed for such technological and economic advancements in society that labor is now more skills and intelligence-based than mere strength-based. This has not only opened the labor market up to women, but also enabled them to earn their own money, therefore making them less dependent on men. Capitalism has also allowed for a significant welfare state to be financed. The original intention of this was to provide a sort of social insurance against poverty and hunger, but it also had the ancillary effect of completely removing women's dependency on men. Keep in mind, however, these aren't necessarily bad things. The technological and economic advancements in society have made things better for everyone. Few people work in the mines or toil in the fields, but instead do accounting in air-conditioned offices. And doubling the labor force with women has certainly increased production, significantly increasing standards of living. Furthermore, you wouldn't want women to be financially dependent upon men. Not only because of the moral argument for individualism, freedom of choice, and volunteerism, but most men would prefer women want to be with them instead of being forced out of desperation or destitution. So yes, advances in the economy and government policy have technically pushed women and men apart, but only to the extent of eliminating codependency and replacing it with volunteerism and genuine desire to be with each other. The two remaining trends, however, are absolutely toxic for male-female relations, and are guaranteed to not only worsen the ROI of the pursuit of women, but rapidly so. These are the cult of feminism and social media. The cult of feminism. Feminism originally started as a political movement for the equal treatment of women. Today, you're going to have a hard time finding a man against that. However, over the past 50 years, it has gone from a movement about equality to that of a socialist cult, the two main pillars of which are victimhood politics and having women replace men with themselves as their sole point and purpose in life. In terms of victimhood politics, feminism is trying nothing new. The aim of victimhood politics is to take a trait you were born with and then claim people without that trait are oppressing you, keeping you down, which therefore entitles you to recompense, preferential treatment, and lower standards. But because of the binary nature of the sexes, people without the trait of being female means men. And because there has to be an oppressor or villain in victimhood ideology, that squarely identifies men as the oppressor/villain in many young women's minds today. Unfortunately, this means many young women view men as competitors at best, enemies at worst, the antagonistic attitude of which renders these women completely unmarriageable. Even more effective than turning men and women against each other has been feminism's success in giving women a whole new value system by which to derive purpose and meaning in life. Traditionally, a loving husband and children is what gave women point and purpose. Love from other human beings is what made life worth living. However, one of the key principles of feminism is to not rely on men. And while this predominantly meant financially, it also meant spiritually. Women cannot rely on men for anything, including their happiness, purpose, or meaning in life, as that would define them by men. You toss in a dose of victimhood politics, and feminism has been tremendously successful in removing men from the number one position in women's lives, replacing them with the values feminism told women to have instead. Careerism, education beyond the point at which you benefit financially, leftist politics, charity, non-profit, volunteer work, crusaderism, even feminism as a religion in itself. And so what has happened is you now have 3, coming up on 4 generations of young women steeped in feminist ideology where they are programmed to not put men at the center of their lives, but instead themselves, and vicariously so through their careers, politics, hobbies, feminism, dog rescue teams, advanced degrees, volunteer work, etc., etc. Again, look at any online dating profile. And if you still don't believe that, simply look at what they're told and what they say. They literally say, "You don't need no man," or "You can't rely on a man," or "Men are toxic." Think about the absurdity of that. You aren't needed. You are also toxic. And this isn't some fringe radical element saying this. This is what your rank-and-file young women today are told from kindergarten to college, and what they regurgitate over their lives. Women may have an underlying biological programming or desire to want a man, but it is indisputable that society is currently and actively programming them against it. Social media/the internet. The second toxic force pushing men and women away from each other is social media. An entire book could be written about the many and wide-ranging effects the internet and social media have had on dating in the sexes. But when you boil it down to its basic elements, what you are witnessing is the economic phenomenon of a substitute good. Traditionally, men and women met, dated, and courted in person. Now, that is rapidly being moved online, and the consequences have been dramatic. First, the volume of potential suitors has increased exponentially. 100 years ago, you were relegated to whoever lived in your local farming village and maybe a town or two over. Today, you have access to everybody on the planet, bar a billion or so people who've yet to be hooked up to the internet. That has cast women into a perpetual dating cycle where there is always the potential for a better man just a click away. Additionally, the global supply of men has flooded women with an indigestible amount of digital attention. This misleads them into thinking the supply of marriageable men is limitless, blinding women to any quality man standing right in front of them. Second, the risk in dating has dropped dramatically. Women no longer have to worry about whether a man is a rapist or a stalker, fully vetting men online before committing to an in-person date. Additionally, women don't have to be pained with the chore of turning a man down in person. Now they just simply don't respond to the message in their inbox, and the man on the opposite end isn't too terribly offended. Men also avoid significant risk in their dating lives as well. They no longer have to build up the courage to ask a girl out in person, facing rejection. Instead, they mindlessly swipe right on girls they want to bang, and she is forever forgotten unless she contacts him in return. This lack of risk, personal interaction, rejection, and general skin in the game has not only forged lower caliber men and women, but now men and women value expressed interest from one another a lot less. Third, with an unlimited supply of men/women and the elimination of risk, the value each of the sexes have for one another has gone down. Previous to the internet, 70% of women would think nothing of standing a man up, but at least that was 30% who would show up. With online dating, even if women match with a guy, only 2% of them will inevitably go on a date, representing a 98% divestment from men. Men also no longer value women. They didn't have to put anything into the pursuit, merely a swipe right, fibbing about their income on a dating profile and a picture with a puppy. Furthermore, women's propensity to flake on men has resulted in a self-fulfilling prophecy where men now fully expect women to cancel at the last minute, rarely setting up a date that exceeds anything past coffee. There is no longer the instance where a young man has to strategize over a week in class to talk, flirt, and woo a girl he likes into a date on Friday. Nor is there the instance where a girl dresses cutely, gives subtle hints, or encourages an interested man in return. Flirting is now cold, callous, removed, and digital. And it's often done while sitting on the toilet. That is how much men and women value each other. Fourth, speaking of coffee, this lack of value has resulted in a lack of investment and effort from both sexes. At best, you will see a C- effort put into dating profiles with confusing pictures and half-assed descriptions. This is corroborated by the D- effort most young people put into their physical appearance as they go outside in public wearing sweats and Crocs. Unfortunately, this causes a negative feedback loop because, discomforting as this may be, you need physical attraction to fire up the passions of the opposite sex. Instead, today men are greeted either online or in person with an obese, debt-ridden, slovenly dressed Ramona Flowers, while men return the favor by swiping right on a dating app as they stand in line at the 7-Eleven to buy some Cheetos and Mountain Dew on their EBT card before they go back to their mom's house to play video games. Obviously, this race to the bottom in American Beauty pushes men and women further apart. But there is an interesting side effect, because while the internet presents the illusion of abundance, this illusion has begat less effort from both of the sexes, resulting in a rapid and continued physical deterioration of the sexes. And, ironically, even though you can meet anybody online in the world, the deterioration in beauty standards has created an impasse where only a tiny fraction of the massive effort men and women put into online dating translates into a real-world date. And therefore, with it being so hard to land a date in the real world, with little hope that person is going to be who they represent themselves to be online, many people give up any hope of flipping a digital relationship into a real-life one. This then maroons these people in the digital world for their love lives. They are further incentivized to remain there as things like swiping right are easier than hitting the gym. And when you consider that social media has grown to such an extent that there is a whole world online replete with effective and functional digital social lives, even romantic ones, the temptation for many people is to remain there, ne'er setting foot in the real world again. And so, ironically, even though this online world with its false promises of unlimited abundance was the cause of all these problems, a significant percentage of the modern-day population will cowardly resort to, fifth, a substitute good. Specifically, replacing traditional real-world relationships with digital fake ones. And here you can see a Twilight Zone nightmare, eerily similar to the movie Surrogates, where all your relationship needs are met online with digital substitutes. If a man wants sex, he doesn't have to hit the gym or ask 10 girls out to hopefully court 3, of which 1 he'll inevitably sleep with. He can just spend 2 minutes jerking off to porn and save himself weeks of time and hundreds of dollars. Or, if he wants the real thing, he can go to a sugar daddy site and essentially rent himself a mistress by the month. If a man needs attention, he doesn't have to develop personality, build a career, or improve himself as a man. He can just go to OnlyFans and for a monthly subscription fee, have his favorite cam girl text him how much she loves him and enjoys his virtual company. If a man needs to find a date, he doesn't have to come up with something quick and clever on the fly before the girl catches her train. He can just sit on the toilet and swipe right. And if you want to go on a date, why chore yourself by physically going somewhere? Find a girl online, go on Skype or Zoom, and form yourself a coromance, a romance formed online during Corona. Never mind you'll never meet the girl in person as she's too afraid to leave her safe and secure digital world. But neither of you were there for any of that real-world in-person stuff anyway. Certainly men are settling for a substitute good through the internet, but this alternative digital reality has huge ramifications for the ROI of women as well. And beyond what was discussed above, men really need to understand just what a game-changer the internet is. Because while men might get their porn fix online or their attention fix from a webcam girl, women can now get everything they want from a man without having to meet him. If a girl wants attention, she doesn't have to dress up, look cute, or go out in public. She just posts, "I'm feeling so ugly today," on Instagram, and a flood of, "Oh no, you're so beautiful" messages will come from the thousands of simps following her. If a girl wants a meal, she doesn't have to go work for it. She can swipe right on enough guys' profiles and in 3 hours be eating sushi. If a girl needs money, she doesn't need to wife up and marry some well-to-do guy. She just has to go down to Best Buy, drop $250 on some webcam equipment, set up a PayPal account, and show her titties on the internet. Maybe even going to the extreme lengths of getting her lighting right. And even though women have 1/9 the sex drive men do, if they're in need of a good fucking, all they have to do is go online, find a good-looking guy, swipe right, and unless she's really ugly, what guy is going to deny her? The end result is that the internet has allowed women to digitally compile a synthetic Superman capable of satiating her every want and desire, and is superior to you or any other individual man in all regards. If she needs money, there are billions of men out there, at least some of which have more money than you. If she needs a meal, there are billions of men out there, at least some of which can afford better restaurants than you. If she needs attention, there are billions of men out there, at least some of whom are more charming and better conversationalists than you. And if she just needs a good fucking, there is always somebody hotter, taller, and more ripped than you up to the challenge. There is no one man, but the best of all men in each regard compiled into one digital being. An undefeatable Voltron of sorts that no individual man can outcompete. And that is why the ROI on the pursuit of women will go down in the future. Forget the fact that the illusion of abundance on the internet has rendered most people ugly. Forget that both men and women are heavily disincentivized to become what the other wants. These certainly lower the ROI of each other, in fact, on their own. It's the fact that you are competing against this digital synthetic Superman who will likely keep women off the market well past the age of 35, to the point that they'll be desperately freezing their eggs. And while no doubt the welfare state, careerism, and all the man-hating feminists in the world are actively lowering the ROI in the pursuit of women as well, they all pale in comparison to this synthetic Superman the internet has provided women.